I'll start with Dr. Cecile first. Can I receive my first dose from one company and the second goes from another?
No, that's not actually a good idea. We're not supposed to do that. The reason is vaccines are different. We just heard about how different companies are coming up with different vaccines. Even vaccines, when they look very similar, like the Moderna and the Pfizer, they're really very similar in having messenger RNA surrounded by lipid nanoparticle and all that, but they're still different. The nanoparticle is different. The lipids, the fat in one is different than the other. And even the messenger RNA codes for a specific piece of the spike protein. It's different. The piece for the pharma is different than the piece for the Moderna. So it's not a good idea to do that. Stick with one vaccine. If they're asking for 2 doses, you can take the 2 doses of these two this specific vaccine.
For all the audience, I know that you will be given a card with the batch number, the name of the company, the date of the first dose, and the date of the booster dose, whether it's Pfizer or Moderna. If you are in a different country, you still have to have some sort of that. But I'm told that it's very strict, at least given to the front line. This is how we are receiving it. The next question to Nardeen: can patients with prior COVID infection receive the vaccine, whether they had immunity or not? What do you think?
Yeah, so actually it is recommended for them to receive the vaccine because we don't know how long the natural immunity after COVID lasts for. And that we have seen clinically too. We had patients who got admitted in March and in April and they were positive. And then we checked them later. We had patients who never mounted antibodies in the first place. We had patients who mounted antibodies and lost them. And on repeat labs, they don't have them anymore. And we did all see patients with recurrent COVID. They had it back in March and they had it again. So from what it seems that the natural immunity doesn't really last too long. We don't know how long it lasts. So yes, it is recommended for patients who had COVID to receive the vaccine. It's not very clear how soon after, but the consensus currently is from 2 to 4 weeks after you're good to go. Some people said 30 days later. Some said as long as you're out of quarantine, you may go ahead and do it.
Thank you. Veronica, can the virus be given to immune-compromised individuals?
So the question, can it be given? Yes, it can. There is no contraindication for immunocompromised patients to receive the vaccine. But again, the Pfizer study did not include what they defined as immunocompromised, meaning patients who were on immune suppression and did not really define like different autoimmune diseases. The phase 3 study did include Hep B and C patients. We do not know what type of immune response these immunocompromised patients may have to the vaccine. What I can tell you is that among the hundreds of patients that we see in clinic who are immunocompromised or even immune deficient, we often do recommend vaccination with common inactivated vaccines, such as the flu shot. And since mRNA vaccines do not contain any viral components, it should theoretically be safe in immune-compromised patients. But we do not have any data, unfortunately, to say that it's necessarily safe. So the answer is that we just don't know yet.
Dr. Cecile, do you want to comment on the same question? Do you have any further additional points?
It's basically, I wanted to say the same thing like Veronica said. That's the RNA, again, it's an RNA vaccine, so no live virus in it. So basically, it's definitely safe, not a problem. Yeah. And remember, the RNA gets degraded very quickly inside the cells. So it's really...
While you are at it, a lot of people are worried that they can get infected to become COVID infected from the vaccine. What do you think the answer to that?
It's the same answer. No, they cannot. And the reason is, again, it's not live or attenuated, live attenuated or anything like that. It's just RNA. It's a piece of RNA. So where is the virus going to come from? So they cannot get the infection from the vaccine.
I hope everybody's listening hear this, because it's a very common misconception or misperception that I'm going to be infected. You are not getting a virus to begin with. You are basically getting a protein. The next question to Nardeen, and this is also a very common misperception. How long would I be immune? 1 year, 3 months? How often you think I will need to take the vaccine again?
So, I mean, again, unfortunately, it's not clear at that point yet. This vaccine was only studied for 2 months so far since that phase 3 clinical trial. We are hoping, and the manufacturers are hoping, that it does obviously give lifelong immunity, but depending on what's going to happen with the virus. If this is a virus that's going to be constantly mutating, similarly to the influenza, they may update the vaccine and be an annual thing, at least in the beginning. So we don't know yet. I don't think we have enough evidence for that yet.
Veronica, can the virus, you spoke a lot about anaphylaxis, and also Nardeen spoke about the rarity of allergic reactions, but can the virus, or what's the chance of the virus causing anaphylaxis or severe allergic reactions? Are any of the ingredients of the vaccine can cause these anaphylaxis? And basically what I'm saying, who cannot take the vaccine?
Yes, so there is a risk of anaphylaxis, like I mentioned before, to any drug, including vaccines, also to any food. Some are more allergenic than others, and we've defined what are components that are more allergenic. Anaphylaxis, again, is a serious allergic reaction immediately after receiving a medication or vaccine or food, 15 minutes to 1 hour after receiving it, and over 90% of the time, there's hives or swelling. So welts all over your body, very itchy. That is how we define anaphylaxis. That is what we believe is life-threatening, what we know is life-threatening or can be, but we have treatment for it. Epinephrine is the most important treatment. The only contraindication, so per the CDC, which did release a statement today on anaphylaxis and allergic reactions to the mRNA vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine. If you have a history of a severe allergic reaction or anaphylactic reaction, as I just defined it, to a prior vaccine, then you should not receive the vaccine. If you have a history of allergy to latex, medication, or any foods, you can still and should still be vaccinated. This opinion was also echoed by Dr. Jordan Orange. He's one of the leaders in the field of allergy, who is the chair at Columbia. This is the consensus in the field. Again, just to talk about, for example, polyethylene glycol, if you've had a reaction to a prior vaccine or to an IV solution, and maybe PEG or polyethylene glycol is implicated, we can do skin testing in the office. You can see an allergist and get skin testing in order to diagnose that allergy. If you have a PEG allergy, then you should avoid vaccines or medications that contain PEG.
I just want to add, if I may, and my panelists are aware, we are aware of the 4 cases that reported earlier, I think today or yesterday in Texas, where 4 persons got allergic reaction. 1 of them was severe to the extent to get epinephrine. However, 4 of them are normal. The panelists, when we discussed that, this is still within the range of normal incidence of allergic reactions, and the only contraindication for the vaccine are those who have a severe allergy or anaphylaxis from prior vaccination, as you heard. Before I let you go, Veronica, I just received a message from our beloved Bishop David. Can you take more than 1 vaccine together? Like, for example, can you take the flu, COVID? What is, and this can be any one of you if that's not your specialty, but I think it is.
Vaccines are often given together. However, since there are side effects, there are adverse effects to certain vaccines, including the flu shot and COVID and Shingrix. They all have side effects of fatigue, chills, fever, headache. It's advisable to take them separately. There's no reason why you should necessarily need to get them together. Get one, you have an immune response to it, and you will mount a fever, for example, have chills, a headache, let your body rest and get the other vaccine. However, like in infants, sometimes they are given all together.
Okay. For the sake of time, I would like you to be concise from now on, please, because it seems we are getting a lot of questions. Dr. Cecile, the next question is really, you can't imagine the number of questions we received. There is hundreds of misinformation that if I take the vaccine, my genetic makeup will be mutated, will be changed, I'll be a different person. Maybe something will happen in my genetic profile. What is the real answer to this?
This is not going to happen. The thing is, again, it's a messenger RNA vaccine. Like I said, the messenger RNA, it's made in the nucleus, it gets out to the cytoplasm. Once in the cytoplasm, it gets translated and degraded right away after that. So it does not stay to go anywhere close to the DNA. Plus, it cannot really go back to the nucleus to get to the DNA. So it's far away from the DNA. The DNA is inside the nucleus. The messenger RNA is in the cytoplasm, and it will get degraded in the cytoplasm. So there is no chance for this RNA to do anything to the DNA. Plus, usually, anyway, during transcription, the DNA and RNA are right next to each other, and they don't mutate each other or do anything to each other. So it doesn't happen.
Thank you. I think I wish I like the way she said it. As soon as she opened her mouth, it won't happen. I like that. She's just putting it out there. That's her specialty. Please do not believe the misinformation. We are not here to tell you what to do, to take or not to take. Our job and our prayers is to really settle down the myth, the truth from the misinformation. Nardeen, I know you brought up the hepatitis B and C in your talk, but if you don't mind, answer the hepatitis B and C. Can the vaccine be given? And what about breastfeeding? I know they are two different topics, but I want to try to combine a couple of questions.
Sure. So the hepatitis B and C, yes, they can be given as long as they're not on immunosuppressive medications for any, other reason. They were included in the phase 3 clinical trial, and they did well, just like the rest of the population. So yes, it is recommended that they get it. As far as breastfeeding, they weren't included in the studies per se, because these studies did not really have those patients. But as we spoke, as Dr. Cecile said, it's a messenger RNA. It does not carry an active virus. It doesn't carry any viral particles in it. So there's no reason that it's going to reach the baby, but the consensus between the obstetrician that it's not really a contraindication for it.
Thank you. Veronica, there is a question regarding if I have prior immunity from a prior COVID, and I think Nardeen partially answered this, but I would like to hear your opinion as an immunologist. I have some antibodies already. Why should I take the vaccine?
Yeah, so just like Dr. Nardeen had mentioned before, we don't know how long natural immunity from prior COVID infection really lasts. Not everyone also mounts an antibody response. So our immune system works in many ways. There's a T cell pathway, a B cell antibody pathway. Some people don't develop antibodies, and maybe it's their T cell pathway that's taking care of them. But you can lose your antibodies. You may not ever develop antibodies for some reason, which we still don't fully understand. You can also have antibodies but still be COVID positive per a PCR test and possibly contagious. So the answer is yes, you should still get a vaccine even if you've had prior COVID infection.
And if I don't mind, I hope you don't mind if I add, we clinically have seen more than one time infection. I think Nardeen may agree also. We have seen patients got infected and reinfected again.